Hi everyone, and happy Monday. Welcome to our third Just Lunch of the term. We're really excited to have you here with us. Here at Just Love Durham, we exist to inspire and release every Christian student to pursue the biblical call to social justice. As well as Just Lunch on a Monday, we also have prayer, which is every Friday at 9 a.m. Prayer is foundational to everything that we do here at Just Love, and we want to be really intentional with praying into the issues that we discuss and hear about on a Monday, so we would love to have you join us there. Today we will be hearing from some of the alumni of Just Love Durham. This is part of our series called Stories of Hope, and we really want this to be an encouragement to you during this time and to inspire you to continue to pursue social justice even when you're stuck at home. We also wanted to let you know about our campaign called June for Justice, which will be happening next month in June. The aim of this campaign is to raise money and awareness for IGM, and we're really excited for it, and we hope that you'll be wanting to get involved.
For our Bible thought this week, we're going to be looking at the book of Daniel in the Old Testament in the Bible, and looking at some of the injustices which happened to him and his friends. So basically, the Israelites, God's people, have been taken out of Judah, Jerusalem. They're in exile in Babylon, and they're under the reign of a king called Nebuchadnezzar, which is a cool name. And basically, Daniel and three of his friends, they are among some of the Israelites who are chosen to be trained up to serve in the king's palace. It's a pretty corrupt kingdom. A lot of the kings put themselves above God and make people worship either themselves or idols. So when I was reading the book, there were three main bits which stuck out to me. The first bit's in Daniel 1, when Daniel and his friends are chosen to learn the language of the Babylonians and be trained up. And basically they are assigned a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table. But Daniel and his three friends choose not to eat it. They don't want to defile themselves in this way. They want to be faithful to God and the Jewish laws of Torah that they shouldn't be eating that food. So instead of eating this food, which would help them materially, they basically decided to have a diet of vegetables. And actually, after 10 days of this diet, they actually looked better and stronger than all the other men who had been eating from the king's table, this defiled food. And we see that their faithfulness is actually honoured by God. In Daniel 1:15-17, it says, "To these four young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, and Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds." So because of their faithfulness to God in these adverse circumstances, they were blessed with insight, intelligence, and wisdom. And actually, Daniel was then able to interpret dreams and visions of the king. And this actually led to King Nebuchadnezzar, the king, at the time stating in Daniel 2, verse 47, "Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings, and a revealer of mysteries, for you were able to reveal this mystery." This is the mystery of his dream. And I just think that's so cool, that their faithfulness, God blessed them, and actually in return from that, people who didn't know God at that time were able to see God's faithfulness through Daniel and his friends. Secondly, this is Daniel's three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They refused to bow to the gold idol, which Nebuchadnezzar set up in Daniel 3. And their punishment for this is being cast into a burning furnace. But an angel or God is actually seen in the furnace with them, because there are four figures seen in the furnace, which is so cool that God literally is faithful and protects them in that situation. It said that not even a hair on their head was singed. And the final thing which stood out to me when I was reading Daniel was Daniel being protected in the lion's den. This is probably the most famous bit of Daniel. When people talk about Daniel, they think about that. Basically, Daniel keeps praying to God, even when a decree has been made by Darius that the only person that can be prayed to is himself at that time. And he's thrown into the lion's den, but actually God is faithful to him. God is faithful for him not buckling under this and still praying to him. And an angel comes and actually shuts the mouths of the lions, so Daniel's not harmed at all. God is faithful and protects to him. And this is just encouraging again, because this is a story of hope, that King Nebuchadnezzar, he sees God through Daniel and his friends, and he comes to see the power of their God, basically. And all three of these instances show their faithfulness. They didn't bow to the pressures of eating defiled food. or worshipping idols of statues or worshipping the king, but they actually just worshipped God. So what's really exciting is that we can keep going to God and telling him when we see the injustices in our life, and we can say to God, God, it doesn't feel like you're in control at the moment. We feel like we're in a burning furnace, or we feel like we're in a lion's den, or we can see other people who are in that furnace or in the lion's den. But actually, it's just learning to trust God, that he's with us when we're hungry, when we're on a vegetable and water diet, when we're in the furnace or the lion's den, but just being honest with that pain, or the pain that we can see of others in those situations. But actually God, we see throughout Daniel that he actually promises to walk with us through that. And what is even more amazing is that when we are in those places of trial, we can actually be such an amazing witness. Other people can see the faithfulness of God through us. So that is my little encouragement to you guys.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel. I graduated in 2017 and I currently live in Durham City up in Glasgow. I spent the first 2 years after uni working in some villages in the east of County Durham and working in the churches there. And I think if you went to the road trip day, you will have been to Shotton Vicarage, and that was where I lived for 2 years working with that project. I felt a clear call to be outside of Durham City after I graduated, and in a place where I could serve, and in a place where I could be a person of hope, in a place that was really lacking in hope and really deprived and feeling, I guess, unimportant and forgotten by a lot of the rest of the country, and East Durham is certainly one of those places. And these 2 years were incredibly rich for my faith. I was challenged to find God in a culture that was really quite different to anything I had experienced before, and in a worship tradition that initially I felt quite unfamiliar and uncomfortable with. Finding my place in that was a challenge, to say the least. And I definitely went through times of feeling really overwhelmed with, I guess, grief, I would call it, for the fact that people just seem stuck in poverty and in destructive lifestyles. But there were also moments of great joy when people discovered God's presence with them in really, really challenging, difficult times. And when people really grasped the sense that God loved them so deeply, and that really produced a tangible change in their confidence in their lives. So finding this balance of trying to be a person of hope where there was incredible tragic moments and also quite a lot of general chaos in lifestyles was a really humbling and maturing task for me. And this whole experience has put me on a really unexpected path towards considering ordination in the C of E, and I have actually recently been accepted for training, so I'm starting at Cranmer in September, which is something I'm really excited about. And I guess the reason that I've kind of pursued this is because I'm convinced of the commitment within the Anglican tradition and its theology to being with the most vulnerable. And the Church of England is well aware that it does need to change if it's going to survive. But some of those changes have already begun to be implemented. And I guess I'm just totally convinced of the vision of the parish system to include everyone and to pray for everyone until they opt out. I'm totally convinced this is a vision worth striving for and one that I feel called to be part of. So thanks for listening. Looking forward to chatting to you later.
Hello everyone, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Sarah. I was part of the Just Love Exec from 2017 to 2018 as publicity coordinator, but I was involved in Just Love throughout my time at Durham. What I'm doing right now is I'm still up here. I'm living out in East Durham in a village called Shotton Colliery, and I am volunteering for 2 churches in 2 villages here in Wingate and Wheatley Hill. I'm doing what's called a MEV scheme, which stands for Ministry Experience Volunteers Scheme. It's something the Church of England do. I'm hoping to become a vicar and hoping to start training in September. And so this is a really great experience for me. Just being out in the communities, getting involved in the local churches, and just getting to experience what ministry is like. So that means that there's quite a lot of pursuing Jesus and pursuing justice where I am at the moment. A lot of what we do in church, there's obviously doing the normal services and helping disciple the congregation, and that's really, really important. And it's amazing, just a lot of people look at these churches and think that they're dying churches because, say, we have about between 50 and 25 people on a Sunday, and a lot of them are over 60. Well, in fact, all of them are over 60, but actually, if you talk to them individually, like Jesus has done so much for them in their lives, and he is really moving in these churches. They're definitely not dying. He's definitely present there. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done to pursue his kingdom here, but it's really exciting to see how he's moving. So that's a big part of my role, but there's also outreach stuff, so going into churches to do assemblies, there's going into care homes to do songs of praise, there's just building relationships with people in the community and trying to show Jesus' love to them. And obviously a lot of that also involves pursuing justice. There is a lot of social inequality here and a good few bits of poverty as well, so doing stuff like food bank or putting on things to help people out. And again, just knowing individuals in the community and trying to help them is really important. But a lot of people kind of define County Durham in areas like this as poverty stricken, and they think that's all that there is here. But actually there's so much happening. There's such a great understanding of what community means. There's beautiful, amazing people, and it's really great just to be out here serving them and being a part of this community.
Hi, Just Lunch. My name is Matt. I graduated from Durham last year. I did theology at Castle. I was also personal coordinator on the Just Love Exec a couple of years ago, so I did the role that Lorna's just started, and I was kind of overseeing the running of Just Lunch. And since graduating, I now work for LICC, which is an amazing charity which equips Christians to live out their faith, not just on a Sunday at church and in our small groups and in our kind of church communities, but in our everyday lives, wherever we might be, in our jobs, at home, at the pub, with whoever we're with. We believe that God really cares about all of it, and we want to resource Christians to live out their faith in all of their lives. And we've actually got a few things coming up for students especially as well, thinking about how do we transition from university and into the world of work with God, knowing that he cares about what we're going to be doing as a job. So I really love working here. And there's also some really cool aspects of my job which are about pursuing justice in the workplace, believing that if God cares about what we do from a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, he cares that those areas are places where justice is brought about and we don't agree or perpetrate injustices through our jobs. And so that's a really cool way in which I can kind of partner with bringing about justice through my work specifically. And I guess beyond that, pursuing justice post-university hasn't quite looked how I thought it would. It's definitely not necessarily looked how it did at university. If you think about when you do volunteering and when you do kind of practical things for bringing about justice, a lot of it happens during the day, during the week, which is obviously when I have my job. So I've kind of had to think of different ways in which to kind of seek God's heart for justice outside of those necessarily volunteering opportunities that, of course, outside of this normal lockdown period, I would be seeking to do those things. I'm actually currently with my girlfriend Hannah at her house, and we're in a high risk kind of household, so we can't really leave the house. We can't go and join the food bank or join local volunteering efforts, even though they're things that we really would love to do. So what does seeking justice look like when you can't do that? Well, since getting a job, and this might be the case for a lot of you once you graduate, you'll have more finances coming in than you normally would, and so you can think about where you want to give those finances. And so giving to charities that I'm really passionate about is an important thing that I believe that God's called me to do. And then also joining in prayer. You can pray any time of the day, any time of the week. So joining in praying for justice is something that I also really love to do. And I guess beyond that, there's a really important discussion to be had in the household itself, and we can do that at the moment, as to what it looks like to be a house that seeks justice, and especially thinking about waste and food waste and how we kind of spend our money and how we use energy and living an ethical lifestyle. So we try to be kind of eating more vegetarian and trying to introduce that to the household, introduce these conversations with Hans' parents when we're trying to ask them, would we be able to eat veggie one night a week? It's these small changes that actually do add up and have quite a big effect when you kind of multiply them out. Can we be donating money or food to the food bank from our weekly shop? What can we be doing as people that can't leave the house in this lockdown period? As some of you are probably in that category as well. There are still things that we can be doing to bring about justice, and so we're really seeking those at the moment.
What are you doing, Catherine? You should tell them what we do.
Yeah, so going from my boots and I'm currently about to go and deliver all of these lovely meals to some of our handcrafted residents, as well as different people who have been referred to us because they're in need during the coronavirus lockdown.
How many are we doing, Harry?
192, mate. per day. Not bad, is it?
Impressive.
Catherine isn't doing all of them by herself.
I heard some of the numbers for like starvation things and just realised that actually to be in the UK we're quite blessed given what's going on in the world right now. Harry keeps telling me we're not just doing food, are we the only people doing mental health?
We're pretty much the only people doing mental health support in the whole county. Look at that.
There you go. So I mean, if we have time on Monday, hopefully we'll see you in Zoom in like 10 minutes time. But if we don't, because we've been made to do deliveries, I'm really sorry because I love you and I want to see you guys. I love everything you're doing.
Hi everyone, my name is Miriam. I graduated from Durham 3 years ago in 2017 and I was a member of the exec then. I was the local coordinator and Just Love was a really important part of my uni experience and a really foundational part of my faith and my kind of pursuing of justice and realising what that meant. So what I'm currently doing now, I coordinate a programme called the Books and Leadership Programme, which is a year-long programme for Christians exploring a vocation in public life, hosted by the Centre for Theology and Community. Essentially, we aim to shape the next generation of leaders in public life by helping them develop a Christian understanding of a renewal of politics based on relationships, community and the common good, and a really realistic understanding of how politics and power currently operates and how that affects people, particularly ordinary people in their communities. So participants spend half of their week in Parliament and half of their week in a church doing community organising around local issues from youth violence to housing. And I actually did the programme myself the year that I graduated from Durham, and that's kind of how I got into this. So I do that half the week, and the other half of the week I'm a community organiser based in Shadwell, which is in the borough of Tower Hamlets in East London. Community organising is all about empowering ordinary people, particularly in grassroots institutions like churches, mosques, schools, in a particular area to work together across those institutions for the common good on issues of local concern. And it's a methodology which originated in the US and has been used in movements like the civil rights struggle. And it's really all about developing very ordinary people, sometimes actually often the very poorest, and those themselves who might be at the knife edge of a particular injustice, to really become leaders. And that's something I'm particularly excited about. So something I've worked on a lot over the past couple of years is housing, so issues around overcrowding, more affordable housing. I was part of a campaign to win what's called a community land trust, which is permanently affordable led, community led housing. And more recently, during the coronavirus pandemic, I've been working on a project developing a group called Shadwell Responds, which is a group of local leaders in my area, mosque leaders, church leaders, school leaders, to work together on some responses to the crisis based on the listening they're doing with the people connected with their institutions. So we've been fundraising for technology and tablets for families that don't have internet access or technology to do home education. We've had a campaign around the government's free school meals scheme to try and get a local Iceland store to join that, and created a website with local resources. So I'd say the way that I'm pursuing Jesus and justice at the moment and kind of for the last couple of years has been through the realm of politics. And I think really something which Just Love helped me to crystallise was that my passion is to tackle social injustice at quite a local level and to really engage as many people as possible in democracy and public life.
Hi, Just Love Durham. I'm Simon and I'm currently in my third year of a physics PhD here in Durham. My research focuses on the design of nuclear fusion reactors. Nuclear fusion harnesses the same process that powers the sun in order to produce clean energy without the use of fossil fuels. Its main benefit over other renewable energies is that it doesn't rely on sunny skies like solar power or strong winds like wind power or strong tidal flows like tidal power. You can produce energy consistently and reliably and in places where other renewables wouldn't be possible. We aren't there yet, but there is a strong international effort to get fusion to deliver electricity. We should see the first net power producing fusion reactors come online in the mid-2020s, and private sector companies are now beginning to invest and develop fusion reactors of their own. In most places globally, traditional renewables won't be able to meet electricity demand, but with fusion working in tandem with them, we could very well see the end of fossil fuel power generation within the next few decades. Access to electricity and the bounties of modern technology is one of the key things that brings people out of poverty, and it is happening. but we have to be wise and careful about how it's delivered. For the safety of our world, it must be through renewables. Undoubtedly, it was Christ that led me to pursue renewable energy and fusion power more specifically. I've always been interested in science and God's world, and this is truly how I believe I can use God's gifts that He's given me to further His cause for justice in the world. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Anna. I was part of Just Love Durham in 2014 to 2017, so it's been a while. Not sure if lots of you will remember me now, which is kind of scary. But I've been asked to do this video just to kind of update you on my life post Just Love. And so yeah, I am originally from Manchester, and once I graduated from uni in Durham, I moved back to Manchester, and I interned for my church for a year, which was an amazing year, and I loved it, but I kind of realised that church wasn't what I wanted to be working in long term, at least not full time. And so about halfway through the year, I felt like God was asking me to train to be a social worker. So I'm now 2 years into that, and just really loving my studies. I'm really excited to kind of qualify and start working in social work. And yeah, and at the same time as training, I am working as a key worker. I'm a support worker for 16 to 25-year-olds. The majority of our young people have either left care or are adults who got to 16, 18 and became homeless. And so a lot of our work is kind of focused around helping them build the skills to live independently, but also kind of dealing with identity stuff and, you know, just telling them they're valuable and loved. And that's the kind of stuff like I live and breathe. I love telling people that, and I love kind of seeing God's justice come through restoration and renewal of hope, which is something I get to do through my job. And so yeah, I'm just really loving life at the moment, as difficult as it is in this season. But yeah, I love the fact that I get to see justice through my job and through my work, and also through just doing life with people. That's one of the biggest things I've found through kind of moving back home, is actually just living my life as an example to people of what justice looks like in the day-to-day, whether that's ethical purchases, whether that's just talking to people about what justice looks like. And at the moment I'm leading our student group in a devotional every Sunday, and we get to talk about, you know, building God's kingdom in our city, and that's just something I love talking about.
Hello, I'm Curtis. I just graduated from Durham Uni back in June 2019, where I studied international relations and politics for 3 years. And undoubtedly, one of the best parts of my university experience was being part of Just Love in Durham. I was co-pres in the 2018-19 year, and it was an incredible privilege to partner with God and with the whole Just Love community in seeing His kingdom come more fully, both in our city and beyond that in our country. Since graduating, I've had the absolute privilege of working full-time for Just Love on the national staff team. I live in Durham, but I'm originally from Bangor in Northern Ireland, which is where you'll find me during lockdown. And in my job with Just Love, every day feels like a really tangible opportunity to seek after both Jesus and justice. And one of the best bits of my job is the work I get to do with students. So I work with student groups in St Andrews, Sheffield and Newcastle, and it really is an incredibly exciting opportunity to get to walk alongside these leaders as they take their communities towards that big Just Love vision of seeing justice done in our time. And I also love getting to work on other national projects like the comms team, producing and publishing lots of our online content. And I'm a big believer that there is huge power and potential in social media and in online platforms as a space within which we can seek the common good and be united around that big vision. It's a great space to share resources to help us learn and become better equipped as we strive to be people who seek justice in our communities really well and have a meaningful impact in the places that we do that. And it's also an incredible privilege to join in with lots of the alumni stuff that we do. Just Love by no means ends when you graduate. The Alumni Network is our space for graduates to get envisioned and equipped for a whole lifelong pursuit of Jesus and justice. And it's amazing to get to work with a network of students and alumni who are so passionate about seeing culture shift, about seeing this pursuit of justice become an increasingly normal part of our discipleship, about seeing industries like politics, business, the media, education, the church, the arts, and so many others transformed in the name and by the power of Jesus to be places where justice, fairness, righteousness, and love reign. I absolutely love my job. I love the opportunity I have every single day to walk alongside people and to bring more people towards that big Just Love vision of seeing justice done, of seeing every single Christian student inspired and released to pursue the biblical call to social justice.
Hi everyone, I hope you've enjoyed hearing a little bit about what the Just Love Durham alumni are up to. As you can see from this week, Just Love is so much more than just a society that we do, and more a movement of people pursuing justice. So this week, we wanted to challenge you to check out what Just Love does as a wider movement. So this week's challenge is to head over to the Just Love UK website and find out what it stands for. And if you're a finalist and you haven't already, sign up to the alumni network. We'd also love it if everyone could pray for the alumni that we've just heard for, and also for third years who are just leaving uni, that in their kind of new stage of life they'll be able to find a way of continuing to pursue their heart for justice and continuing to serve God in that way. The second challenge is to pop on the social media and search up the other Just Love pages. We'd love for you to take some time to realise and be inspired by the fact that we're not the only students pursuing God's heart for justice. And so it would be great if you could pray for those other groups as well as they try and navigate how to work Just Love and Just Lunch and things virtually, and how to best serve God and serve God's heart for justice in this time. The third challenge is to donate to the Just Love National group, and there's a link to doing that on the website. It would also be great, again, if you could pray for Just Love National as they try and navigate the whole of Just Love across the country during lockdown, and how they think about how's best to advise us to pursue justice in this time.
Hi guys, hope you're doing well. I just want to share some updates about prayer as a Just Love community. At such a time as this, we really want to press deeper into prayer, and even though it feels like a lot of things have been cancelled, we want to tell you guys that prayer isn't. And we're going to be joining together as a community at 9 AM on a Friday on Zoom, and we're really excited for this as an opportunity to press deeper into God, and for this to be a real space of encounter. We really begin to share God's heart, and a place where God begins to break our hearts for what breaks His.